The mountain was supposed to be worthless. That was what they told Cole Mahalstra when his dead uncle left him 240 acres of ruined timberland in Washington state. Then his retired German shepherd stopped in front of a concrete wall hidden beneath 40 years of moss. Something behind it was still running. A powerful company offered Cole enough money to walk away. Then someone started sending an SOS from inside the mountain. What Cole found beneath that ridge would uncover 47 years of lies, a forgotten rescue mission, and a secret ledger men were still willing to bury. If you enjoy stories about courage, loyalty, second chances, and the extraordinary bond between veterans and their dogs, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Your support helps us continue bringing these stories to life. At 4:17 in the morning, a German shepherd named Ranger began growling at the floor. Not at the door, not at the darkness beyond the windows. At the floor, Cole Mercer opened his eyes inside an old travel trailer parked behind a closed tire shop outside Aberdeen, Washington, and for several seconds he did not know where he was. Rain struck the aluminum roof. A refrigerator compressor hummed somewhere behind the tire shop, and Ranger stood 6 feet from Cole's narrow bed, perfectly still. His nose pointed toward the warped plywood beneath an old green duffel bag. Ranger. The dog did not move. Cole pushed himself upright. At 53 years old, getting out of bed had become less of a motion and more of a negotiation. His right knee complained first, then his lower back. Then the shoulder that had never healed correctly after a helicopter extraction 17 years earlier. Cole ignored all three. He had spent 22 years learning that pain was information. It did not always deserve authority. Come here. Ranger finally looked at him. The German shepherd was 8 years old, nearly 80 pounds, with a dark black saddle, deep mahogany legs, and a gray dusting around his muzzle that had appeared faster than Cole wanted to admit. His left ear leaned slightly outward from an old training injury. He had once been a military working dog trained for explosives detection. Now his official occupation was keeping one stubborn former Navy SEAL from disappearing completely. Ranger looked back toward the floor. Then came another sound. 3 soft knocks. Cole froze. Knock, knock. Not from beneath the trailer. From the rain. A branch, he realized. Some damned branch striking the underside of the trailer whenever the wind moved it. Cole rubbed both hands over his face. You woke me up for landscaping. Ranger stared at him. Outstanding work. The dog sneezed. Cole swung his feet onto the floor. That was when he saw the envelope beneath the door. He stopped. Nobody sent mail here. Nobody was supposed to know he was here. The trailer did not belong to Cole. Technically, neither did the patch of gravel beneath it. A man named Walter Phelps owned the tire shop and had let Cole park behind the building in exchange for night security, small repairs, and the occasional job hauling tires. Walter never called it charity. That was why Cole accepted. The envelope had been pushed through the narrow gap beneath the trailer door. Cream paper, his full name handwritten across the front. Cole Mercer. No stamp, no return address. Ranger came beside him. Stay. Cole opened the door. Cold rain blew against his face. The gravel lot was empty. Beyond the chain-link fence, Highway 12 shone beneath the streetlights. No car, no footsteps, no person running away, only rain. Cole looked down. Fresh tire tracks cut through the mud beside the trailer. Someone had been there. Recently, he closed the door. Ranger sniffed the envelope once and backed away. That's encouraging. Cole opened it. Inside was a business card and a handwritten note. The card belonged to a probate attorney named Evelyn Shaw. Olympia, Washington. The note contained 11 words. Your uncle is dead. He left you something nobody else wanted. Cole read it twice. Then he laughed. There was no humor in the sound. That makes 2 of us. Ranger watched him. Cole's uncle had been Nathan Mercer. His father's younger brother, a logger, a mechanic. A drunk, according to Cole's father. A liar, according to Cole's mother. And eventually, according to everyone in the family, a man best forgotten. Cole had not seen him in 31 years. He remembered Nathan mostly as enormous work boots beside a kitchen door and the smell of cedar smoke on an old canvas jacket. There was one other memory: Nathan kneeling beside a 12-year-old Cole behind his father's barn, showing him how to sharpen a knife. "Never cut toward yourself," the old man had said. "And never believe a man who tells you something has no value before he tells you what he wants to pay for it." Cole had forgotten that sentence until now. At 9:30 that morning, Evelyn Shaw arrived. She was 61, silver-haired, compact, and dressed in a brown wool coat that looked expensive without asking anyone to notice. She did not comment on the trailer. Cole liked her immediately for that. Ranger did not. He sat beside Cole and watched her hands. Evelyn noticed. "Does he bite attorneys?" "Only expensive ones." "Then I should be safe." That earned the smallest movement at the corner of Cole's mouth. They sat inside the tire shop office because the trailer had only one chair that did not wobble. Evelyn placed a thick folder on Walter's old desk. "Nathan Mercer died 11 months ago." "What happened?" "Heart failure." Evelyn hesitated. "Yes." Cole looked toward the rain-streaked window. He had expected the answer. It bothered him anyway. There was a delay identifying the proper heir, Evelyn continued. "Nathan never married. He had no children. Your father died 7 years ago, which leaves you." "Lucky me, possibly." That word made Cole look at her. Evelyn opened the folder. Nathan had owned approximately 240 acres in the foothills east of the Olympic Peninsula. Most of it had once been timberland. The logging road had washed out in several places. A house on the property had been condemned. There was no reliable electricity. No municipal water. No commercial timber operation had worked the land in decades. And an abandoned quarry occupied the northern ridge. Cole listened until Evelyn finished. "So he left me 240 acres of wet trees and a hole in the ground." "Essentiate worth." "That depends. It always does. The county assessment is unimpressive." "Meaning?" "Meaning if your uncle hoped to make you rich, he chose an unusual method." Cole leaned back. Ranger rested his head against Cole's knee. "Sell it." Evelyn did not answer. Cole looked at her. "I said sell it." "I heard you." "Then what's the problem?" "There is already a buyer." Cole stared at her. Something inside him became very quiet. "How already?" "A company called Halcyon Ridge Development contacted the estate before I located you." "What do they want with worthless timberland?" "They say conservation." Cole gave her a look. Evelyn nodded. That was approximately my reaction. She removed another document. The offer was for an amount high enough to change Cole's life. Not make him rich, but erase the medical collections. Replace the truck whose transmission slipped whenever it got warm. Put a roof over him and Ranger that did not rattle when the wind came off the Pacific. Maybe even leave enough to stop counting every gallon of fuel. Cole read the number again. "Why are you showing me this instead of telling me where to sign?" "Because Nathan left instructions." "Of course he did." Evelyn reached into the folder and removed a sealed brown envelope. Nathan's handwriting crossed the front, for Cole only. Cole felt something tighten beneath his ribs. He opened it. There was no apology. No explanation of where Nathan had been for 3 decades. Only a hand-drawn map and 4 lines. Cole read them silently. Then aloud, "If you sell, sell clean. Walk the north road first. Take the dog, and when he stops where nothing is standing, believe him." Cole lowered the paper. For several seconds rain was the only sound in the office. Evelyn looked toward Ranger. "Did Nathan know about him?" "No." "You're certain?" "I got Ranger 6 years after I last heard Nathan's name." Evelyn studied the letter. "Then that's interesting." "No, that's irritating." Cole folded the paper. "I don't believe in messages from dead men." "Neither do I." "Good. I believe in legal instructions from them. Unfortunately, those are my profession." Cole looked again at the offer. He could sign. That was the sensible choice. Take the money. Leave. For most of the last 9 years, Cole had lived by reducing his needs. 1 backpack, 1 dog, 1 coffee mug. 1 photograph he kept face down in a drawer. The photograph showed 5 men standing beneath the brutal Afghan sun. Cole stood on the far left. Beside him was Daniel Hayes. Danny, 29 years old, married a daughter who had just learned to say daddy over a satellite call. The photograph had been taken 48 hours before Danny died. Cole had spent years remembering the final radio transmission. Not the explosion, not the gunfire, the voice. Cole, get them out. Cole had gotten 3 men out. Danny had not been one of them. There were explanations. There were reports. There were medals. There were senior officers who told Cole that the decision he made had saved lives. None of them had been inside his head at 2 in the morning. Ranger had. That was enough. Cole looked down. The German Shepherd was watching him. Don't. Ranger's tail touched the floor once. Evelyn closed the folder. You don't have to go, good. But I think you will. Cole looked at her. Why? Because you've looked at that map 7 times since opening it. He hated competent people. The next morning, Cole and Ranger drove east. The old Ford pickup climbed away from the coast beneath a sky the color of gunmetal. Rain followed them into the foothills. The road narrowed. Houses disappeared. Cell surface vanished. Douglas fir and western hemlock crowded the shoulders until the forest seemed less like scenery and more like a wall. Nathan's property began beyond a rusted gate. Someone had welded a steel plate across it decades earlier. Mercer Timber and Stone. Half the letters were gone. Cole unlocked the chain with the key Evelyn had given him. Ranger jumped from the truck. He stood in the rain and smelled the air. Immediately his posture changed. Cole noticed. What? Ranger moved toward the gatepost, sniffed, then toward a muddy rut. Cole crouched. A tire print, wide tread, recent, someone else had driven through. The property was supposed to have been sealed since Nathan's death. Cole stood slowly, the old feeling returned, not fear. Assessment, distance, cover, tracks, weather, exit. He had not asked that part of himself to wake. It did anyway. They drove another 4 miles. Nathan's house appeared between the trees. Calling it a house was generous. The porch collapsed on one side. Moss covered the roof. A chimney leaned dangerously toward the woods. Behind it stood a workshop built from corrugated steel. And beyond both, rising through the fog, was the northern ridge. The abandoned quarry cut into its side like an old wound. Cole parked. Ranger jumped down. For the next hour, Cole inspected the buildings. Nathan had lived simply. Tools, canned food, oil. Stacks of notebooks. Old wood stove. No television, no computer. On the wall above the kitchen table hung a photograph. Cole stopped. Nathan stood beside 3 other men in front of a mountain tunnel. Not a quarry, a tunnel. The photograph looked as though it had been taken sometime in the late 1970s. Nathan was young. Beside him stood a man wearing a United States Army Corps of Engineers jacket. Another wore a county rescue uniform. The 4th man's face had been scratched away. Not faded, scratched deliberately. Cole removed the photograph. On the back were 5 words. They were alive when we left. His stomach tightened. Outside, Ranger barked. Once. Cole turned. Another bark, then silence. He walked onto the porch. Ranger, the dog, stood 30 yards into the trees. Watching the old logging road, the north road, Cole grabbed his jacket. They followed it uphill. The road had nearly disappeared beneath moss and alder. Nathan's map showed it continuing toward the quarry. But after half a mile, Cole found something strange. The road ended, not at a landslide, not at a gate. It simply stopped against a wall of ferns and young fir trees. Cole checked the map. Wrong. According to Nathan, another mile of road should have been ahead. Ranger walked into the vegetation easy. The dog disappeared between 2 firs. Cole followed. Beyond them stood a concrete retaining wall almost completely hidden by moss. 20 feet high, maybe 40 feet across, no road. No tunnel, nothing. Ranger moved along the wall, nose down. Then stopped. Cole remembered Nathan's letter. When he stops where nothing is standing, believe him. Ranger? The shepherd did not look back. He pressed his nose toward the moss-covered concrete. Then scratched once. Cole approached. There was no door. No seam, no opening. He placed his palm against the wall. Cold concrete. Ranger moved 3 feet to the left. Stopped again, his ears lifted. Cole heard nothing. Then Ranger tilted his head. Cole knew that look. The dog had heard something. Cole pressed his ear against the concrete. At first, only silence. Then a vibration, very faint, almost below hearing. Cole pulled away. He waited, pressed his ear against it again. There, a mechanical pulse, steady, repeating. Something behind that wall still had power. After more than 40 years, Cole stepped backward. Ranger suddenly growled. Not at the wall, behind them. Cole turned. A man stood on the abandoned road. He had appeared without Cole hearing him approach. Late 60s, tall, gray raincoat, no hat despite the rain. His hands were empty. His expression was friendly. Too friendly. You must be Cole Mercer. Cole did not answer. Ranger moved in front of him. The stranger stopped. Easy. I'm not here for trouble, then you're lost. The man smiled. My name is Warren Voss. Cole recognized it. Halcyon Ridge Development, the buyer. Voss looked past him toward the concrete wall. Only for a fraction of a second, but Cole saw it. You shouldn't be up here, Voss said. Interesting thing to tell the owner. These roads aren't stable. Neither are you. The smile disappeared, not completely. Just enough. Voss looked at Ranger. Beautiful animal. Ranger's growl deepened. Apparently the feeling isn't mutual, Cole said. Voss returned his attention to Cole. Our offer remains open. I haven't declined it, no. Voss glanced toward the wall again. But you've started asking questions. I haven't asked you one. Sometimes walking somewhere is a question. Cole said nothing. Rain fell between them. Voss reached slowly inside his coat. Ranger stepped forward. Voss stopped. His hand emerged, holding a business card. He placed it on a rotting stump instead of approaching. Call me. Cole looked at the card but did not touch it. Voss began walking away, then stopped. His back remained toward Cole. Nathan spent most of his life trying to open something that should have stayed closed. Cole felt the hairs rise along his arms. What? Voss turned. For the first time, there was no friendliness in his face. Ask yourself why a man would leave 240 acres to a nephew he hadn't spoken to in 31 years. Then he walked into the trees. Cole waited until the sound of his footsteps disappeared. He looked at Ranger, then at the wall. The dog returned to the same place and sat. Cole crouched beside him. The mechanical pulse continued behind the concrete. Once every several seconds, alive, patient, waiting. Cole ran his fingers through the wet fur along Ranger's neck. 31 years of silence, an inheritance nobody wanted. A road erased from the property, a photograph with one man's face scratched away. A multi-million-dollar company trying to buy worthless land before Cole could inspect it. And somewhere inside the mountain, machinery that should have died before Cole ever became a Navy SEAL was still running. He remembered Nathan's warning. Never believe a man who tells you something has no value before he tells you what he wants to pay for it. Cole looked at the concrete wall. For the first time since Evelyn Shaw had shown him the offer, he stopped thinking about how much the property might be worth. He began wondering what someone was paying him not to find. Ranger suddenly stood, his ears turned toward the forest below. An engine started in the distance. Cole watched through the trees. Far down the mountain, headlights appeared. One vehicle, then another. They were climbing toward him, and whoever was driving already knew exactly where he was. The first vehicle reached the lower switchback less than 3 minutes later. Cole did not move, neither did Ranger. From where they stood beside the concrete wall, the old logging road dropped through the trees in a series of muddy turns. Headlights flashed between trunks, vanished, then appeared again farther uphill. 2 trucks, dark colors, heavy tires, moving faster than men should drive on a road they had supposedly never used. Cole looked at Ranger, back. The German shepherd immediately retreated 3 steps. Cole moved with him into the trees. Old instincts returned without ceremony. Do not stand where the other man expects you to be. Do not let noise tell him where you are. And never assume the first thing you see is the only thing coming. They took cover behind the root mass of a fallen cedar. Cole watched. The first truck stopped near the hidden concrete wall. 3 men climbed out. The second remained farther down the road. One man carried a chainsaw, another had a long pry bar. The third carried a yellow equipment case. Not hikers. Not surveyors. Cole recognized preparation when he saw it. The man with the case walked directly to the wall. No searching, no hesitation, he knew where it was. Cole felt something cold settle beneath his ribs. Warren Voss had left less than 10 minutes ago. These men had been waiting nearby. The man opened the case. Inside were cables, a handheld meter, and what looked like a compact thermal imaging unit. He placed a sensor against the concrete. Cole watched him check several points. Then the man spoke, still running. The words carried through the trees. Another man answered. No idea. What did Voss say? Same thing he always says. Do not open it unless we have to. Cole looked at Ranger. The dog's ears were forward. His body remained motionless. Cole leaned closer and whispered, We're leaving. Ranger's eyes moved toward the wall. I know. They withdrew through the forest. Cole did not return by the road. He circled south, using the ridge for cover, until Nathan's house appeared below. No vehicles waited there. Good. For now. Inside the house, Cole locked the door and pulled Nathan's map onto the kitchen table. Ranger stood beside him, dripping rainwater onto the floor. Cole traced the north road with one finger. It ended at the concrete wall. But Nathan had drawn another line behind it, not straight. Descending, a tunnel. Cole studied the faded pencil marks. The tunnel ran beneath the ridge for nearly half a mile, then opened into a chamber marked only with 2 letters. Beside them, Nathan had written a date, November 1979. Cole searched the notebooks. Most contained weather logs, timber measurements, repair lists, and strange calculations involving air pressure. Then he found one labeled North Shaft. Inside were diagrams. Ventilation generator systems, drainage pipes, emergency exits. Nathan had not discovered the tunnel. He had worked on it. Cole turned the pages faster. A federal project had begun beneath the property during the late 1970s. Officially, according to Nathan's notes, it had been described as a geological stabilization site. But the diagrams told another story: reinforced rooms, blast doors, independent power, filtered ventilation, communications equipment, enough infrastructure to survive something above ground. A shelter, maybe more. Cole found folded newspaper clipping inside the back cover. The headline described a massive storm that struck the Washington coast in December of 1979. Flooding, landslides, road collapses, several people missing. Cole read the names. Most meant nothing. Then he saw one. Richard Voss, 24, listed as a rescue volunteer. Warren Voss had to be related. Cole read farther. Richard had disappeared with 6 others during an attempted evacuation near the Mercer property. Their bodies had never been recovered. Cole sat back. Ranger rested his chin on the table. That gets your attention too? The dog exhaled. Cole turned the clipping over. Nathan had written one sentence on the back. 7 entered. 9 came out. Cole stared at it. That made no sense. Unless 2 people had already been inside. A knock came at the front door. Cole's hand moved instinctively toward the heavy flashlight on the table. Ranger was already standing. 3 knocks, slow, then a woman's voice. Mr. Mercer? Cole did not recognize it. He approached the door from the side. Who are you? Deputy Lena Brooks. Grays Harbor County. Cole opened the curtains slightly. A sheriff's cruiser sat outside. One woman stood on the porch, mid-40s, dark uniform, rain jacket, hands visible. Cole opened the door but kept the chain attached. Can I see identification? She showed him. Ranger inspected the opening. Deputy Brooks looked down. That's a serious dog. He's sensitive about labels. She almost smiled. I'm here because someone reported trespassing. Cole's expression changed. On my property? That's the interesting part. She pulled a small notebook from her pocket. The caller claimed you were trespassing on restricted land. Cole looked past her toward the woods. Who called? Anonymous. Convenient. Usually is. Cole removed the chain. Brooks stepped inside but stayed near the door. Her eyes moved around the kitchen. The notebooks. The map. The clipping. She noticed everything without touching anything. You just inherited this place? Yesterday. And somebody is already calling law enforcement? Apparently. Brooks nodded slowly. That would bother me. It does. She looked at the map. North Quarry? Cole watched her. You know it? My father did. That answer landed differently. How? Brooks took off her wet hat. He worked county search and rescue. Cole looked at the newspaper clipping. December 1979. For the first time her face changed. Not much. Enough. Where did you get that? Cole showed her. Brooks read the names. Her mouth tightened. My father was there. He survived. Yes. Did he talk about it? Almost never. Cole tapped Nathan's handwriting. 7 entered. 9 came out. Brooks read the words. The color left her face. My father used to say that. Cole went still. What? Not those exact words. She lowered the clipping. But when he got older, after the dementia started, he'd wake up saying, there were more people underground than they told us. Rain rattled the windows. Cole looked toward Ranger. The dog was not watching Brooks. He was watching the floor. Then Ranger walked to a corner of the kitchen. He sniffed. Scratched once. Cole frowned. What is it? Ranger scratched again. Cole moved the table aside. Beneath it was old linoleum. He cut one edge with a utility knife and pulled it back. A square metal hatch lay beneath. Deputy Brooks stepped closer. Was that on the property inventory? No. Cole found a recessed handle. The hatch opened with effort. A narrow staircase descended beneath the house. Cold air rose from below, not damp, moving, ventilated. Ranger stared into the darkness. Cole switched on a flashlight. The stairs led approximately 12 feet down to a concrete room. On the far wall hung electrical panels. One indicator light was still glowing. Green, Brooks whispered. How is that possible? Cole descended. The room contained an old backup generator, fuel tanks, wiring conduits, and a steel control cabinet. Most equipment was dead. One circuit was not. Cole followed the live conduit along the wall. It disappeared underground in the direction of the North Ridge. The same direction as the hidden tunnel. A clipboard hung beside the cabinet. Nathan's handwriting covered the final sheet. Cole read it. The system had been checked every month for decades. Then, 11 months ago, the entries stopped. Nathan's death. At the bottom was another note. Cole read it aloud. If the mountain goes silent, they will know nobody is watching. Brooks looked at him. Who are they? I think I met one. Cole told her about Warren Voss, the offer, the men at the wall, the equipment. Brooks listened without interruption. When he finished, she took out her phone. No signal. Welcome to the neighborhood. I need to report this. Not yet. Her eyes hardened. I'm a deputy and somebody used your department to make a false trespassing complaint on land I own. Brooks understood immediately. Cole continued. Until we know who made that call, we don't know who hears your report. That did not please her, but she did not argue. Ranger suddenly barked above them. Once, Cole's head snapped upward. Then came the sound of breaking glass. Brooks reached for her sidearm. Cole killed the flashlight. They climbed the stairs. Ranger stood in the kitchen facing the back window. The glass had shattered inward. Something lay on the floor. A stone. Wrapped around it with red tape was a piece of paper. Cole picked it up. 4 words. Take the offer, Mercer. Brooks looked toward the dark trees outside. That feels less anonymous. Cole walked to the window. No movement, no vehicle. Whoever had thrown the stone had approached through the woods. Ranger moved toward the broken glass, sniffed the sill. Then the ground outside. Cole opened the back door. Ranger track. The shepherd moved instantly across the yard. Past the workshop, into the timber. Brooks followed Cole. Should we be doing this? No, good. The trail climbed toward the north road. Ranger moved quickly, then stopped. A small object lay in the mud. A torn strip of dark fabric. Cole picked it up. Expensive material. From a raincoat he remembered Warren Voss, gray coat. No hat. Ranger continued another 20 yards, then froze. Cole saw why. A depression had been cut into the hillside. Covered by branches, inside sat a small monitoring station. Battery packs, a camera, directional microphone, and a live video screen. Cole stepped closer. The screen showed Nathan's house. The kitchen window, the porch, the driveway. They had been watching him. Brooks whispered a curse. Cole examined the equipment. Then Ranger began growling, not toward the forest. Toward one of the speakers, a low mechanical sound came through it. Pulse, pause, pulse, pause, the same rhythm from behind the concrete wall. Then the pattern changed, 3 quick pulses, a pause. 3 more. Brooks stared at the speaker. What is that? Cole listened. The hair rose along his neck. He had heard patterns like that before. Not the equipment, the intention. Someone was signaling. From inside the mountain, 3 short, 3 long. 3 short, Brooks whispered, said Nuffico. The signal repeated again and again. Whatever was beneath the ridge was not merely powered. Something inside it was asking to be found. The signal repeated for the 4th time. 3 short pulses, 3 long, 3 short, then silence. Cole Mercer stood in the wet timber beside the hidden monitoring station and stared at the speaker, as if it had just spoken his name. Deputy Lena Brooks looked at him. You think someone is alive in there? I think something is sending a distress signal. That's not the same answer. No. Ranger moved closer to the equipment. The German Shepherd sniffed along the battery case, then stopped beside a bundle of old insulated cable disappearing beneath the leaves. Cole crouched. The cable was not part of the modern surveillance setup. Too thick, too weathered, it ran uphill, toward the ridge. He pulled away enough moss to expose a stamped metal tag. Mercer Auxiliary Communication Line, Nathan. Cole felt the pieces beginning to move. Not together, not yet, but closer. Brooks crouched beside him. Your uncle kept this connected. For 40 years, apparently. Why? Cole looked toward the mountain. Maybe because he was waiting for that signal. They returned to Nathan's house before dark. Brooks moved her patrol cruiser behind the workshop, where it could not be seen from the main road. Cole covered the broken kitchen window with plywood. Ranger paced between the front door and the hidden hatch beneath the floor. He hated uncertainty. Cole understood. The old military part of him wanted a clean mission. Known enemy, known terrain, known objective. This place offered none of those things. Only fragments, a buried tunnel, an old rescue operation. A buyer desperate to own worthless land, men monitoring Nathan's house. And a distress code coming through machinery that should have stopped working before Cole finished high school. Brooks called the county dispatcher once she found a weak signal near the southern edge of the property. She reported only that she was remaining on scene regarding a property dispute. Nothing more. Cole approved. She did not ask. That helped. After sunset, they spread Nathan's notebooks across the kitchen table. Ranger lay beneath it. Cole read every entry connected to November and December of 1979. Most were technical. Generator load, air filter replacements, pump pressure, fuel storage, ventilation. Then the language changed. December the 7th, county crews arrived before midnight. Road below ridge already unstable. Voss insisted lower chamber remain sealed. December the 8th, storm worse. 2 families brought in from West Road. 9 civilians total, 3 children. County count does not match mine. December the 9th, Richard says buses are coming. No buses came. December the 10th, they ordered us out. I refused. Cole stopped reading. Brooks leaned forward. Richard Vlikett. He turned the page. December the 11th, water entering lower access. Main entrance damaged, emergency shaft still usable. Warren arrived with company men, said the chamber was empty. He was lying. Brooks slowly lowered her coffee. Warren was there? He would have been around 20. Cole read again. The handwriting became rougher. More pressure in the pencil. December the 12th. Heard pounding through south wall. Richard wanted to reopen. Warren stopped him. Argument. Then one final line. Richard went back in. Cole looked at the old newspaper clipping. Richard Voss, missing rescue volunteer presumed dead. Brooks whispered, his own brother, maybe. Cole turned another page. Nothing. The next 7 pages had been removed, not torn accidentally. Cut cleanly near the binding. Cole ran one finger along the edge. Someone had taken them. Brooks looked toward the broken window. Warren? Could be. Could have been Nathan. Could have been anyone. Ranger suddenly lifted his head. Cole watched him. What? The dog stood, walked toward the kitchen wall. Then turned toward the hallway. He moved to Nathan's bedroom. Cole followed. The room held almost a narrow bed. A dresser, a closet, one wooden chair. Ranger went to the closet. Sniffed beneath a stack of old blankets. Cole removed them. Beneath was a metal ammunition can. Inside were photographs. Dozens. Not family photographs, construction photographs. Men standing inside tunnels, concrete forms, ventilation ducts. Emergency bunks, food storage, medical equipment. One image showed Nathan beside Richard Voss. Both men were young and muddy. Richard was smiling. Nathan was not. Cole turned the picture over. Richard knew. That was all. Another photograph showed a steel door marked Lower Shelter B. On the floor nearby stood several suitcases, children's suitcases. Cole felt something shift inside him. The buried installation had not been built simply as a government shelter. People had actually used it. Brooks found a smaller envelope beneath the photographs. Inside was an audio cassette, handwritten label. December 13. For Cole, Brooks looked at him. For you? Cole stared at the handwriting. Nathan had prepared this recently, not 40 years ago. They searched the house until Brooks found an old cassette player in the workshop. Cole cleaned the battery contacts. Nothing. Then he connected it to a portable power supply from the truck. The machine clicked. The reels turned. Static filled the kitchen. Then a man's voice. Older, weak. Nathan Mercer. Cole, if you're hearing this, I'm dead. Cole did not move. Ranger rested his chin against Cole's thigh. Nathan continued. I don't know what your father told you about me. I can guess. Breathing, I earned some of it. Cole stared at the cassette player. I drank too much. I disappeared when people needed me. I let shame make decisions I should have made myself. Another pause. But I never left because I stopped loving my family. Cole's jaw tightened. Nathan's voice rasped through the old speaker. I stayed here because of what happened under the North Ridge. Brooks pulled her chair closer. Nathan continued. The government built the first chambers during the Cold War. County Emergency Management expanded them later. Halcyon Mining paid for part of the work. The Voss family owned Halcyon before they changed the name and learned how to wear cleaner suits. Cole exchanged a look with Brooks. Halcyon Ridge Development. Same bloodline. Different company. Nathan's voice continued. In December of 1979, the storm cut off 3 communities. Landslides closed the highway. The county started moving people into temporary shelters. Static swallowed several words, then Nathan returned. We took 23 civilians into the lower ridge. Brooks froze. The newspaper clipping listed fewer than 10 people missing. Nathan continued. Some were migrant forestry families. Some were seasonal laborers. Some weren't documented anywhere the county cared to keep. Cole closed his eyes for one moment. There it was. The oldest trick in the world. Make people invisible before you abandon them. Nathan's voice lowered. The lower chamber started flooding after the west retaining wall failed. Richard Voss wanted to open the service shaft and move everyone uphill. Warren said no. Cole leaned closer. Nathan continued. The company had stored chemical drums in a sealed section behind the shelter. Solvents, treatment agents, things they weren't supposed to have buried there. Floodwater was already carrying it through the lower level. Brooks whispered, Jesus. Nathan's voice continued. If the chamber opened, county inspectors would see everything. Cole felt anger arrive, slow, heavy, more useful than rage. So Warren ordered the doors shut. Nathan's words were quieter now. Richard fought him. Static, a cough. I helped Richard get one emergency door open. Cole stared at the floor. 9 people came through before the internal supports shifted. A pause. That's what I meant when I wrote 7 entered and 9 came out. 7 rescuers went down, 9 civilians came back with us. Brooks covered her mouth. But there were more. Nathan's voice cracked. 14 more. The kitchen seemed to lose all sound. Even the rain had stopped. Cole could hear Ranger breathing. Nathan continued. We tried to go back. Warren's men blocked the access. Richard went through the maintenance shaft alone. He never came back. Cole looked toward the photograph of the young man. Nathan's voice weakened. The official report said the lower shelter was empty. It said Richard died in the storm. It said the missing civilians were never confirmed to have reached the property. All lies. A long stretch of static had followed. Cole thought the recording had ended. Then Nathan spoke again. I took pictures, I kept logs. I tried to testify, no one wanted it. The company threatened your father. Cole's expression changed. Nathan continued. He had a wife. A boy, so I told him to hate me. Cole inhaled slowly. I told him I was drunk. I told him I made the whole thing up. I told him to take you and never come back. The tape clicked softly. Cole's hands were clenched. He had spent half his life thinking Nathan abandoned them. His father had repeated it until the story became family law. Nathan the coward, Nathan the drunk, Nathan the disgrace. But shame had not been the whole story. Some of it had been protection. Poor protection, painful protection, but protection. Nathan continued. I thought if they believed the family wanted nothing to do with me, they'd leave you alone. Another breath. I was wrong about a lot of things. But maybe not that. Cole looked down at Ranger. The dog's eyes were fixed on him. Nathan's voice softened. I know what happened to you overseas. Cole went completely still. I read about your team. Cole did not breathe. Nathan continued. I know what people say to a man who comes home without everybody. They tell him he did what he could. They tell him to move forward. They mean well. A long pause. But sometimes a man doesn't need permission to move forward. Sometimes he needs one chance to go back for somebody. Cole's eyes closed. For one terrible second he heard another voice. Danny, get them out. Heat. Dust. Radio static. A building collapsing faster than men could think. Cole opened his eyes again. Nathan continued. If that signal ever starts, the old emergency relay has found power again. That means the lower chamber isn't completely flooded. And it means the auxiliary door may still cycle. Cole looked toward the hidden hatch beneath the kitchen floor. You'll need the south maintenance route. A click. Then Nathan gave directions. Cole grabbed the map. The maintenance route did not begin at the north concrete wall. It began beneath the house, the power conduit, the basement room. Nathan had built his home directly over an auxiliary access point. Brooks whispered. He had a way in the whole time. No. Cole pointed to Nathan's final note. The shaft had been blocked by a collapse for years. Nathan had spent decades maintaining power and waiting for conditions inside the mountain to change. Nathan's recording continued. The dog will hear the airflow before you do. Cole looked at Ranger. Nathan somehow knew. Not Ranger specifically. A working dog, a detection dog. Maybe he had planned for Cole to bring one because he'd read about Cole's life. Nathan continued. Do not trust the first door. Do not trust the Voss family. And if Warren tells you he's trying to protect his brother's memory, remember this. A pause. He chose the company once, he'll choose it again. The tape ended. The cassette player clicked. Nobody spoke. Finally Brooks asked, what now? Cole stared at Nathan's map. The signal came today, meaning something changed underground. And you want to go in? It was not a question. Cole looked at her. 14 people were left down there. 47 years ago. I know, they're not alive, Cole, I know. Brooks studied him carefully. Then what are you trying to save? The question hit harder than he expected. Cole looked toward Ranger, then at the photograph of Nathan and Richard. I don't know yet. At first light, they opened the basement control room again. Nathan's map showed a maintenance hatch hidden behind the generator cabinet. Cole removed 4 bolts, then 6 more. The steel panel swung outward. Cold air moved through the opening. Ranger stepped forward. His nose lifted. The dog inhaled several times, then looked at Cole. "Find." Ranger entered. Cole attached a tracking light to the dog's harness. Brooks carried a flashlight and radio. Cole carried rope, a compact first aid kit, bolt cutters, marking tape, water, and the old map inside a waterproof sleeve. No firearms beyond Brooks's service weapon. Cole did not expect a gunfight underground. He expected something worse. Old structures, bad air. Unstable concrete. Water, memory. The passage descended gradually. Concrete gave way to raw rock in several places. Rust-colored pipes ran along the ceiling. Water dripped from old bolts. Ranger moved slowly. Professional. His paws made almost no sound. After 100 yards, they reached the first door. Steel, round wheel, faded lettering. Auxiliary access 3. Cole remembered Nathan's warning. Do not trust the first door. He examined the floor. Scrape marks. Recent. Somebody had opened it. Brooks noticed too. We aren't the first ones. Cole nodded. He checked the hinges, then the surrounding wall. A thin wire ran from the frame into a modern black box. Alarm sensor new. Someone had installed it recently. Cole disconnected it. Brooks looked at him. You still remember how? Some things stay. They opened the door. Beyond it was darkness. Not a tunnel, a room. Old lockers lined one wall. Emergency helmets. Rubber coats. Medical packs long expired. On the opposite wall hung a large site map beneath cracked plastic. Cole wiped away dust. The layout was bigger than Nathan's drawings. 3 levels, multiple shelters, storage rooms, water systems, a communications hub, and a section marked industrial holding. Brooks pointed. Chemical storage, probably. Ranger moved toward a second corridor. Then he growled. Cole froze. Show me. Ranger lowered his nose. Blood not old. Cole saw the first dark drop on the floor. Then another. They followed the trail 20 feet. A man lay behind an overturned utility cart alive. Barely, Cole knelt. The man wore a dark work jacket. Same type as one of the men Cole had seen near the concrete wall. His forehead was bleeding. One ankle bent badly. Brooks crouched beside him. Can you hear me? The man's eyes opened. Panic arrived immediately. Voss. Cole leaned closer. Warren. The man swallowed. He came in last night. Why? The man tried to sit. Pain stopped him. He found the secondary route. How? The man laughed once. It sounded broken. He's been looking for 40 years. Cole looked at Brooks. What's inside? The man's eyes moved toward the lower corridor. Proof. What proof? Not papers, he coughed. Not just papers. Cole waited. The man whispered, Richard. Brooks stared. What about Richard? The injured man looked at Cole. They found him. Cole's skin went cold. His remains? The man nodded. Behind the lower blast door. Then his expression changed. Fear. But that's not why Warren came. What else did they find? The man closed his eyes. Cole said nothing. The man continued. Old industrial film, sealed canisters. Richard recorded everything that changed the shape of the entire story. Not accusations, not memories, not Nathan's notebooks. Film, potentially showing the lower shelter, the chemicals, the trapped civilians, maybe Warren himself. Cole stood. Brooks looked at the injured man. We need to get him out. Cole nodded. They stabilized his ankle and moved him back toward the auxiliary room. Ranger stayed close. When they reached the first door, the man grabbed Cole's sleeve. Don't go down there. Why? Voss isn't alone. How many? 3 armed. The man nodded. Brooks looked at Cole. This just became law enforcement. It became law enforcement 47 years ago. That doesn't mean you get to play commando. Cole met her eyes. I'm not. Brooks gestured toward the lower corridor. Then what are you doing? Cole looked into the darkness. Finishing my uncle's walk. They secured the injured man near the entrance with water, blankets, and Brooks's spare radio. Then they continued. The corridor descended. Ranger moved ahead. Cole counted turns. measured distance, watched ceiling cracks. The air changed after approximately 200 yards. Chemical, faint, old. Then came another smell, standing water. Cole's breathing changed. He hated that Ranger noticed first. The dog slowed and looked back. "I'm fine." Ranger did not move. Cole felt the tunnel tighten around him. Not physically. Inside his chest, suddenly concrete became mud walls. The smell of water became burning insulation. The dripping pipes became radio static. Danny's voice arrived from 17 years ago. "Cole, get them out." Cole's hand pressed against the wall. Brooks saw him. "Cole, give me a second." The words barely came out. Ranger walked back. He pressed his shoulder against Cole's leg. Not dramatic, not magical, just weight, warm, real. "Here." Cole placed one hand on Ranger's neck. He counted 4 breaths. Then 5. The memory stayed, but it no longer owned the corridor. "Move," they continued. At the bottom of the ramp, they reached water. Black. Still, approximately 18 inches deep. Cole stopped. Of course. The mountain had saved the worst part for him. Brooks looked at him. "We can turn around." "No. You don't have to prove anything." "I'm not." Cole stepped into the water. Cold rose around his boots. Ranger followed. The lower level opened into a vast chamber. Rows of rusted cots, blankets reduced to gray fragments. Children's shoes, metal cups, a toy truck. Brooks stopped beside it. Neither of them spoke. The room did not need narration. People had been here. Not numbers, people. Ranger walked between the cots. His nose worked constantly. At the far wall stood a blast door. Partially open, light moved beyond it. Not their light. Someone raised one hand. "Stop." Voices. Warren Voss, older, tired, angry. Another man answered him. "We have the reels, all of them?" 6. "And Richard?" A pause. Still where they found him. Warren said something Cole could not hear. Then another voice. "We need to burn everything." Cole felt Brooks stiffen beside him. Warren answered. "No." The word surprised Cole. The other man said, "You said there couldn't be evidence." "I said nothing leaves this mountain." "What's the difference?" Warren's voice changed. "Because my brother is down here." Cole looked at Brooks. There it was. Nathan predicted it. Warren was not simply protecting a company. He was protecting Richard. Or the version of Richard he needed the world to remember. The other man said, "The film will destroy your family." Warren answered, "It will destroy him." Cole listened. "People will say Richard was part of it. He wasn't. They'll see a Voss underground with company equipment and dead civilians. They won't care which brother gave the order." Silence. Then Warren spoke more quietly. "I spent 47 years making sure Richard was remembered as a man who died trying to save people." Cole understood this was not only money, not anymore. Maybe it never had been. Warren had built his entire life around a lie that allowed one brother to remain a hero, even if preserving that hero required everyone else to remain forgotten. Cole stepped forward. His boot struck a loose metal cup. It rolled across the concrete. The sound traveled through the chamber. Voices stopped. Ranger growled. A flashlight beam swung through the blast door. Then Warren Voss stepped into view. His gray coat was gone. He wore work clothes now, mud, dust, blood on one sleeve. He held no gun. The man behind him did. Warren stared at Cole. Then at Ranger. He looked almost disappointed. "I told you to take the offer." Cole looked around the abandoned shelter. "I finally understand what you were buying." Warren's face hardened. "Your uncle should have let this die." He tried. "No." Warren shook his head. "Nathan fed it for 47 years. Cole stepped closer. Brooks moved beside him. "Warren Voss, tell your man to lower the weapon." Warren looked at her badge, then at the gun behind him. "Do it." The man hesitated now, the weapon lowered. Brooks moved forward, but Warren raised one hand. "Before you arrest anybody, you should see what Nathan never understood." Cole watched him. "What?" Warren turned toward the lower room. "My brother." They entered. The chamber beyond the blast door had partially collapsed. Old storage shelves leaned under layers of mineral deposits. Several rusted chemical drums stood behind a broken partition. Warning labels had faded, but enough remained. Halcyon Industrial Systems. At the rear of the chamber was another emergency door. Collapsed concrete had trapped it half open. Beside it lay human remains. A rescue helmet, a torn jacket, a corroded identification plate. Richard Voss. Warren stopped several feet away. For the first time he looked old. Not powerful. Not polished, old. My father told everyone Richard disappeared in the flood. Cole said nothing. Warren continued. He told me if the chamber was opened, Halcyon would collapse. Maybe it should have. I was 20 years old. Richard wasn't. Warren looked at him sharply. Cole continued. Your brother went back. You don't know that. Nathan did. Nathan hated my family. Richard's body is lying beside an emergency door. Warren's jaw tightened. You think that makes the story simple? No. Cole looked around the room. That's what makes it worth telling. One of Warren's men held an old metal film case. Cole saw the label. Lower Shelter, December 12. Warren followed his gaze. His face changed. Cole understood immediately. The film had not been viewed. Warren did not know what it showed. For 47 years he had been protecting his brother from an image that existed only in his imagination. Maybe Richard looked guilty. Maybe he looked heroic. Maybe he looked frightened. Maybe he looked human. Warren could not tolerate uncertainty, so he tried to bury all of it. Ranger suddenly barked. One sharp warning. Cole turned. Water was moving, at first slowly, then faster. A crack had opened along the lower retaining wall. A dark stream pushed beneath the storage shelves. Brooks shouted. We need to move. The man holding the film case stepped backward. Concrete groaned overhead. Dust fell. Warren stared at Richard's remains. He did not move. Warren. Cole grabbed his arm. Warren pulled away. I'm not leaving him again. A section of ceiling cracked. Cole heard the sound and knew exactly what it meant. Failure, seconds, maybe less. The old nightmare rushed toward him. Danny, collapse, orders, get them out. Cole looked at Warren, then at Richard, then toward the rising water. History had offered him the same cruelty in a different uniform. Save the living. Leave the dead. Cole hated it. But this time he understood something he had spent 17 years refusing to understand. Leaving the dead was not always abandonment. Sometimes it was the price of bringing someone else home. Cole grabbed Warren by the jacket. We're going. Warren fought him. My brother, your brother already made his choice. Cole shoved the film case into Brooks's hands. Take it. Ranger barked again. Water surged around their boots. The chamber shook. Cole dragged Warren toward the blast door. For 1 second, Warren looked back at Richard's remains. Then the ceiling came down between them. Not on Richard. Between a wall of concrete and dust, the past sealed itself again. Warren stopped fighting. Something inside him seemed to break. Cole pulled him forward. They ran. Behind them, water filled the lower shelter. Ahead, Ranger led them through the darkness. And somewhere inside the film case, pressed against Deputy Brooks's chest, was the only witness left who could finally tell them what Richard Voss had done when the mountain began to drown. They reached the auxiliary room, with water chasing them through the tunnel. Not a wall of water, not yet, something worse, a steady rise. Patient, certain. Cole Mercer had learned long ago that the most dangerous things were not always the fastest. Sometimes danger simply kept coming. Ranger reached the first steel door ahead of them and turned back. His harness light flashed across the tunnel walls. Deputy Lena Brooks came next, one hand protecting the metal film case against her chest. Behind her stumbled Warren Voss, then the 2 Halcyon men. One supported the injured worker they had left near the entrance. Cole came last. The water had reached his knees. He could hear concrete shifting somewhere behind them. Every sound carried through the tunnel, a crack, a groan, a deep impact, then another. Cole did not look back. Looking back was for men who had time. Move. Brooks reached the maintenance stairs. Ranger climbed first. The injured worker nearly collapsed halfway up. Cole took his weight. For several seconds he carried more of the man than the man carried himself. His right shoulder screamed. Cole ignored it. Warren stopped at the bottom of the stairs. Cole saw him staring back into the tunnel. Warren. No response. Your brother isn't coming through that door. Warren looked at him. For the first time since Cole had met him, there was no negotiation in the man's face. No calculation, only grief. I left him there. Cole stepped down one stair. 47 years ago, I left him. You were 20. I still left him. Cole understood the sentence too well. The facts did not matter when guilt had spent decades learning your voice. He grabbed Warren's forearm. You can hate yourself outside. Warren almost laughed. It came out as a broken breath. Cole pulled him up. The moment they crossed into Nathan's basement, the floor shook. Dust fell from the beams. Then something deep beneath the house collapsed. The vibration traveled through Cole's boots. Ranger barked and backed away from the open hatch. Cole slammed the steel panel shut. Water struck the other side seconds later. Not enough to break through. Enough to make the metal tremble. Brooks leaned against the wall. Tell me there isn't another way out of that lower level. There was. Warren answered before Cole could. Everyone looked at him. Warren stared at the closed hatch, the west shaft. Cole remembered Nathan's map, collapsed in 1979. Warren nodded. My father had it filled afterward. Brooks straightened. You mean intentionally sealed? Warren said nothing. That was answer enough. They moved upstairs. Morning light filled Nathan's kitchen. It felt wrong. After the darkness underground, sunlight seemed almost dishonest. Cole closed the curtains. Brooks immediately tried her radio. This time she got a weak signal. She called for medical assistance first. Then county backup, then state investigators. She did not mention the film. Cole noticed. When she ended the transmission, he asked, "Why leave that out?" Brooks looked at Warren. Because I still don't know who listens before state investigators arrive. Cole nodded. Warren sat at Nathan's table. Water dripped from his clothes onto the floor. He looked smaller now. Not physically, his certainty had disappeared. One of the Halcyon men stood near the wall. The other helped stabilize the injured worker's ankle. Nobody seemed sure who was prisoner and who was witness anymore. Ranger went directly to the film case. He sniffed it once. Then lay down beside it. Brooks looked at Cole. Your dog has opinions. He usually invoices later. For the first time that morning, Brooks smiled. It vanished quickly. We need to secure this. Warren looked at the film case. You don't know what's on it. No, Cole answered. Neither do you. Warren's jaw tightened. Cole pulled out a chair. That's the part that's been driving you crazy, isn't it? Warren looked at him. You spent 47 years protecting a story you never actually saw. My father saw enough. Your father told you enough. Same difference, no. Cole leaned forward. That's exactly the difference. Warren looked away. Outside engines approached, multiple vehicles. Brooks moved to the window. Ambulance. Then another sound. A deeper engine, not emergency. Cole stepped beside her. A black sport utility vehicle turned into the property. Then another, clean, new, too clean for the road. Warren closed his eyes. Halcyon. Brooks looked at him sharply. You called them? No. Then how do they know? Warren gave her a tired look. Because there hasn't been a private conversation in my family since 1968. Cole looked toward the hidden surveillance system in the woods. Of course, someone had been monitoring more than Nathan. Maybe even Warren. 3 people stepped from the first sport utility vehicle. 2 men. 1 woman. The woman walked toward the house carrying an umbrella despite the light rain. She appeared to be in her early 50s. Dark hair cut neatly at her shoulders. Long charcoal coat, no wasted movement. Warren stood. Cole noticed immediately, not fear. Recognition, family. The woman reached the porch and knocked once. Brooks opened the door but did not step aside. Can I help you? My name is Claire Voss. She looked past Brooks. Warren. Warren did not answer. Claire continued. I'm his daughter. Cole looked at Warren. That was new. Claire's eyes moved to him. You must be Cole Mercer. People keep knowing that before I introduces myself. We've spent 11 months trying to purchase your uncle's property. That sounds expensive. It has become more expensive every hour. Her gaze moved across the room, film case, wet clothes. Mud. The injured halcyon worker, then Ranger, the dog stood. Claire stopped. Good instinct. Cole noticed that too. Brooks stepped onto the porch. This is now an active scene. You need to remain outside. Claire held up both hands. I'm an attorney, so is half the trouble in this country. Cole almost smiled. Claire did not. She looked at Warren. Dad, come outside. Warren's expression changed, not to authority, to shame. Cole saw it. Claire was not merely a corporate representative. She was his daughter, and whatever came next would not stay in the past. Warren shook his head no. Claire stared. What happened? I found Richard. The color left her face. For the first time, her perfect control broke. Uncle Richard? Warren nodded. Claire lowered the umbrella. Rain touched her hair. Where? Inside. Claire looked toward the ridge. Then back at Warren. His remains? Warren nodded again. Claire closed her eyes. Cole watched her carefully. When she opened them, she looked toward the film case. What else? Nobody answered. That told her enough. Claire stepped toward the doorway. Brooks blocked her. I said outside. Claire stopped, her voice lowered. You don't understand what you're holding, Cole answered. We're getting that a lot. Claire turned toward him. If that material contains what I think it contains, there are environmental claims, wrongful death claims, federal reporting violations, historic liability, land contamination, insurance fraud, and potentially criminal exposure. Sounds like a busy afternoon. This isn't funny. No. Cole's voice changed. It stopped being funny when I found children's shoes underground. Claire's face tightened. Warren looked down. Cole continued. 14 people were left behind because somebody didn't want inspectors seeing chemical drums. Claire looked at her father. Warren said nothing. That silence hurt her more than any accusation. Dad, it wasn't my decision, but you were there. I was 20. You were there. Warren stood. His chair scraped backward. I tried to protect Richard. Claire stared at him. By protecting Halcyon? No, then tell me what you did. Warren opened his mouth. Nothing came. Cole watched a family story collapse in real time. He knew the sound. It did not always involve shouting. Sometimes it was just one generation realizing the previous generation had edited the truth. Claire stepped into the room without waiting for permission. Brooks let her, maybe because everyone understood the threshold had already been crossed. Claire looked at the film case. We need an independent archive. Cole nodded. We need copies first, yes. Warren looked at his daughter. You don't know what Richard did. Claire turned. Neither do you. The same sentence Cole had used. Warren heard it differently from her. It landed harder. A state investigator arrived 40 minutes later. Then another. The ambulance took the injured worker. The two Halcyon men were separated for interviews. Brooks preserved the surveillance equipment. Cole showed investigators Nathan's notebooks, the cassette recording, the photographs, and the false trespassing note. Warren volunteered to stay. That surprised everyone except Ranger. The dog had stopped watching him. Cole noticed. Ranger did not forgive people. Dogs did not think that way, but he recalibrated. Warren was no longer approaching. No longer hiding intent. Whatever danger the man represented had changed. By afternoon, the film case was transported under supervision to a small archival laboratory in Olympia. Cole went with it, so did Brooks. Claire insisted on attending as counsel for the family. Warren came without asking anyone's permission. Ranger rode in Cole's truck. The laboratory occupied part of an old state records building. No dramatic vault, no polished museum room. Just controlled temperature, careful hand, fluorescent lights, and equipment built for fragile things. A film preservation specialist named Arthur Bell examined the first canister. He was 72 and spoke to damaged film the way some men spoke to horses. No heat, no rush, no heroics. Cole liked him immediately. Arthur opened the canister. The smell came first. Vinegar. Chemical decay. He frowned. Some degradation. Can you recover it? Maybe. Cole waited. Arthur looked at him. People hear maybe and think it means no. What does it mean? It means don't bother me while I save your history. Cole nodded, understood. 6 reels, 2 were badly damaged. One contained only construction footage. Another showed the shelter before the storm. Bunks, food supplies, ventilation systems, workers. Nathan appeared twice. Young, thin, hair down over his forehead. Alive in a way Cole had never known him. Richard Voss appeared too. He smiled often. He had the kind of face people trusted quickly. Warren watched without moving. Claire stood beside him. Neither spoke. Then Arthur loaded the 4th reel. The image flickered, jumped, stabilized. December 1979. Someone had written the date on a slate in front of the camera. The footage began outside. Rain struck the lens. Vehicles moved through mud. People climbed from county trucks, families, children. Workers, a woman holding a baby beneath a blanket. Cole felt the room change. Nathan's 23 civilians. Not a number anymore. They walked, they looked tired. Cold, alive. June daylight was not needed to make it painful. Their faces did enough. Brooks whispered, "My God." Warren sat down. Cole remained standing. The film continued. Richard operated the camera at first. His voice could not be heard. The film was silent, but captions had been written later on small boards. Temporary shelter intake, Halcyon North Ridge, another shot. Nathan distributing blankets. Then Richard handed the camera to someone else. He appeared in frame. A younger Warren stood behind him. 20 years old, thin, nervous. Nothing like the polished man Cole had met in the forest. Richard pointed toward a row of drums. The camera moved closer. Labels, industrial solvent, restricted storage markings. Claire stared. Warren whispered, "I forgot he filmed them." "You saw the camera?" "Yes." "Then why didn't you know?" "My father took it from him." The footage jumped. Now people were moving quickly. Water appeared along the floor. One child was carried past the camera. Nathan and Richard opened an interior door. Then Warren entered frame. He grabbed Richard's arm. They argued. No sound, only gestures. Richard pointed toward the emergency exit. Warren pointed toward the chemical storage. Richard shoved him. Warren shoved back. Then another man entered. Older, heavy build, expensive raincoat, Claire whispered. "My grandfather." Warren's Voss. The real authority. The film changed everything. Edmund pointed at the lower doors. 2 Halcyon workers closed them. Richard stepped between them. Edmund struck him. Warren moved forward. For 1 second, Cole expected him to help his father. Instead, Warren grabbed Edmund, pulled him back. Claire inhaled sharply. Warren stared at the screen. "I didn't remember that." Cole looked at him. The film continued. Richard opened a maintenance gate. Nathan helped civilians through. Warren held one of the doors. Not closed, open. 3 people passed, then 6, then 9. A section of ceiling collapsed. The image shook. Dust filled the frame. The camera dropped. For several seconds, only concrete floor appeared. Then someone lifted it. Warren. Young Warren. He pointed the camera toward Richard. Richard stood on the other side of the damaged passage. Separated, he gestured for Warren to leave. Warren shook his head. Richard shouted something. Silent on film again. "Leave." That much required no sound. Richard turned and disappeared deeper into the shelter. Warren remained. Then Nathan pulled him away. The film ended. Nobody in the room moved. Warren's face had collapsed. Not with guilt. With something more complicated. 47 years of memory had just been corrected by light. Cole looked at him. "You didn't seal Richard in," Warren whispered. "I thought I did." Claire turned toward him. "What?" Warren covered his face with both hands. "My father told me I caused the collapse. He said if I hadn't fought him, Richard would have made it out. He told me Richard went back because of me." Claire stared. Warren continued. "He told me the 9 survivors had to disappear from the record, or Richard would be blamed for unauthorized evacuation." Cole understood now. Edmund had weaponized guilt, used one son's love for another to preserve the company. And Warren had carried the lie for nearly half a century. Brooks spoke quietly, but you still covered it up afterward. Warren lowered his hands. Yes, no excuse, no argument. Just yes. Cole respected that more than he wanted to. Warren continued. I was scared. My father said the families would be deported. Said Nathan would go to prison. Said Richard's name would be destroyed. I signed statements. I lied to investigators. I bought this land through shell companies when Nathan refused to sell. I monitored him. Claire's eyes filled with tears. You monitored an old man for decades? Warren looked at her. I told myself I was protecting Richard, but you were protecting yourself. Claire's voice broke. Warren nodded, eventually yes. Cole looked back at the frozen final frame, Richard disappearing into the dark. A man choosing to go back, not because he expected recognition. Because people were still inside. Arthur Bell cleared his throat softly. There are 2 more reels. Everyone looked at him. The 5th reel was shorter, damaged. Only fragments survived. A corridor, floodwater, Richard moving through it. Then the camera turned toward 14 civilians, gathered near an upper maintenance chamber. Alive, still alive after the official evacuation supposedly ended. Richard had reached them. Cole felt a chill. The footage jumped. Richard writing on a board. Cole leaned closer. Arthur froze the frame. The words were shaky but readable. West shaft blocked. Waiting for pump. Nathan and Richard trying to operate a manual pump. Another. Water rising. Then 14 people standing behind him. 1 elderly man. Several women. 4 children. Richard faced the camera. Held up a board. Tell them we were here. The room became utterly silent. Cole thought of Nathan's cassette. Sometimes a man needs one chance to go back for somebody. Richard had gone back. Nathan had spent the rest of his life trying to go back too. Different ways, same promise. Then came the final surviving footage. Richard alone. The civilians were no longer in the chamber. Cole's chest tightened. Richard held another board. They reached West Ladder. He pointed upward, then another board. Voss men sealed surface. Warren stood so fast his chair fell backward. No. Claire grabbed his arm. Warren stared at the screen. My father said the west shaft collapsed. Cole felt anger return. Edmund Voss had not merely abandoned people below. He had sealed an exit after Richard got them there. Arthur advanced the film. 1 final board, 14 alive above lower flood. Then darkness. The reel ended. Brooks looked at Warren. If the west ladder was sealed from the surface, Warren understood. They may not have died underground. Cole looked toward Nathan's notes. A possibility opened. Small. Terrible. The western axis had been intentionally filled. If the chamber above the floodline survived, there could still be remains. Personal effects, records, evidence of what happened after Richard sent them upward. Claire whispered. What happened to them? Nobody knew. That unanswered question became more dangerous than anything they had found so far. Because if 14 civilians reached the west shaft alive, someone had made another decision after Richard disappeared. Someone at the surface, and Warren's father had not been alone that night. Brooks pulled out her phone. We need the original county personnel roster. Claire looked at her and Halcyon's payroll. Cole added. And anyone still alive who was on that ridge. Warren said nothing. Cole looked at him. You know somebody. Warren slowly raised his head. My father had a foreman. Name Calvin Rusk. Brooks frowned. Alive. Warren nodded. 93. Where? Port Townsend. Claire whispered. You've spoken to him? Every Christmas. Cole stared at Warren. For 47 years, he was the last man who saw my father that night. And you never asked. Warren's expression hardened with shame. I asked what I was prepared to hear. Cole understood that too. Most men did. Truth rarely entered through a locked door. It waited until a man finally stopped holding the handle. By the time they left the archive building, evening had turned the sky purple over Olympia. News had not yet broken publicly, but it was moving. Too many investigators, too many records requests, too many people suddenly interested in a forgotten mountain. Cole stood beside his truck while Ranger drank water from a folding bowl. Brooks walked toward him. "We have a problem, only one." She held up her phone. "The surveillance equipment from Nathan's property is gone." Cole stopped. "What?" "The state team went back to collect it. Site was empty, all of it. Camera, microphone, battery, transmitter." Cole looked toward the parking lot. "Warren's people?" Brooks shook her head. "Both men who were with him are still being interviewed." "Claire?" "She was here." Cole looked across the lot. Warren stood alone near a state vehicle, older now, like the film had taken 47 years from him in a single afternoon. Cole walked over. "The monitoring station is gone." Warren looked up. His reaction was immediate, not surprise. Fear. "Then my father wasn't the last one protecting this." "Your father is dead." "Who else?" Warren looked toward Claire, then lowered his voice. "Halcyon had an outside attorney in 1979. Name, Martin Keene. Alive? No." "Then why do you look scared?" "Because his son runs Halcyon's board today." Cole felt the shape of the conflict expand. Warren had been the visible threat, the man offering money, the man watching Nathan, but he had not been the only man interested in the mountain. "Maybe not even the most powerful," Warren continued. "My daughter doesn't control Halcyon, neither do I." "Who does?" "The board chair." "Name, David Keene." Cole looked at Claire. "Does she know?" Warren shook his head. "I don't think so." Ranger suddenly stopped drinking. His head lifted, his ears turned toward the far edge of the parking lot. Cole followed his gaze. A black sedan sat beneath a streetlight, engine running. Nobody got out. Brooks know it. Warren's face went pale. Keene, the sedan began moving. Slowly, it passed the group without stopping. Cole could not see the driver clearly through the dark glass. But the rear passenger window lowered 2 inches, just enough. A voice came through, male calm. "Mr. Mercer." Cole stepped forward. The car kept moving. The voice continued, "You found the wrong part of the story." Then the window closed. The sedan disappeared onto the street. Brooks reached for her phone. Warren did not move. Cole looked at him. "What does that mean?" Warren stared after the vehicle. "I don't know." Cole did not believe him. Ranger growled softly. Warren looked down at the dog, then at Cole. "There was one more thing my father told me." Cole waited. Warren swallowed. "He said the 14 people weren't the reason they sealed the west shaft." Cole felt the night grow colder. Then what was? Warren looked toward the archive building, holding Richard's film. "A ledger." "What ledger?" "My father called it the Blue Book." "What's in it?" "I never saw it, Warren." The older man lowered his voice. "He said if that book ever surfaced, Halcyon wouldn't just lose the mountain." A pause. "It would lose everything." Cole looked at Ranger, then toward the dark road where the sedan had vanished. The mystery had changed again. The 14 forgotten civilians had been real. Richard had tried to save them. Nathan had spent his life guarding their memories. Warren had spent his protecting a lie, but someone else had been protecting something larger than all of them. And somewhere near the sealed west shaft, a blue ledger had survived long enough to frighten men whose fathers were not even alive anymore. Cole Mercer did not sleep that night. Neither did Ranger. At 2 in the morning, the German Shepherd lay across the motel room doorway, head up, ears moving at every sound from the hallway. Cole sat beside the window with Nathan's map spread across his knees. The west shaft, the Blue Book, 14 civilians who had reached higher ground and then vanished from every official record. And David Keene, the board chairman of Halcyon Ridge, telling him he had found the wrong part of the story. Cole had spent enough of his life around dangerous men to understand something simple. A threat was rarely about what had already happened. It was about what someone feared would happen next, which meant Keene believed the ledger still existed. Cole studied Nathan's map again. The west access was not on the modern property survey. Nathan had drawn it by hand. From the north shelter, a maintenance corridor climbed toward an old ventilation tower, nearly 3/4 of a mile west of the main ridge. Beside the tower, Nathan had written one word: church. Cole had assumed it was a landmark. Now he was not so sure. At 7:15, Deputy Lena Brooks knocked on the motel door. Ranger reached it before Cole. Brooks entered carrying coffee, a folder, and the expression of someone who had been arguing with official systems since before sunrise. "We found Calvin Rusk." Cole took the coffee. "Alive?" "Very. Talking. Depends what you mean by talking." She handed him the folder. Calvin Rusk was 93 years old and living in an assisted care home outside Port Townsend. Former halcyon foreman, former volunteer firefighter. No criminal history. 3 children. 7 grandchildren. A life that looked clean on paper. He's lucid, according to the facility. "Then let's go." Brooks held up one hand. "There's more." She opened another page. The original 1979 county roster had been located in an off-site archive. 26 responders were documented on the ridge during the storm. But Nathan's film showed at least 32 adults wearing rescue or company gear. 6 missing names. Cole looked at her. "Halcyon employees?" "Maybe." "Keene family?" Brooks nodded. David Keene's father, Martin, was listed as outside counsel in company records, but not on the county rescue roster. He was there. "How do you know?" Warren said Nathan's father had legal people on site. Brooks shook her head. "That isn't proof, no." Cole looked at Ranger. "But I think we're about to find some." The drive north took nearly 2 hours. Gray water appeared through the trees as they approached Port Townsend. Fishing boats moved slowly across the bay. The sky had cleared for the first time since Cole inherited the property. He did not trust it. Weather, like people, could look harmless while changing direction. Calvin Rusk occupied a small room overlooking a courtyard. He was thin, very thin. A blanket covered his legs. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes did not. They went first to Brooks, then Cole, then Ranger. The old man smiled. "German Shepherd." Cole nodded. "Ranger good dogs, usually." Calvin looked at Cole longer. "You're Nathan's boy, nephew." The old man's smile disappeared. "Close enough." Cole sat opposite him. "You knew Nathan." "For longer than was healthy." "Did you like him?" Calvin looked toward the window. "Not always." "Did you trust him?" "More than I liked him." That sounded like Nathan. Cole placed a copy of Richard's photograph on the table. Calvin saw it. His fingers stopped trembling. "Where'd you get that?" Inside the ridge, Calvin's breathing changed. Cole did not rush him. Eventually, Calvin whispered, "You opened it. Part of it. Then you found Richard." "Yes." The old man's eyes filled with water. He looked away. Cole let the silence work. Finally, Calvin said, "He was a good kid, Warren Richard." Cole leaned forward. "What happened to the 14 civilians after they reached the West Ladder?" Calvin's eyes snapped back. That was enough, he knew. Brooks spoke gently. "Mr. Rusk, we need the truth." Calvin laughed. It was not amused. Everyone says that when truth gets old enough to stop hurting their careers. Cole said nothing. Calvin continued. 47 years. His voice cracked. 47 years, and now people want the truth. Cole placed Nathan's photograph beside Richard's. Nathan wanted it then. Calvin stared at the images. He did, so did Richard. "Yes, did you?" Calvin looked at Cole. That question hurt. "Good. Sometimes truth needed to." Calvin lowered his eyes. "No." Brooks asked again. "What happened at the West Shaft?" Calvin closed his eyes. When Richard got those families to the upper chamber, Nathan was trying to reopen the west hatch from outside. Who stopped him? Ed and Warren's father? Calvin nodded, and Martin Keene. Cole felt the name settle. Calvin continued. The chemicals were bad enough, but the book was worse. The blue book. The old man looked surprised, so somebody remembered. What was it? Calvin's voice dropped. A paint ledger. For what? Everything couldn't put in normal books. Cole waited. Calvin stared at the courtyard. Psst. County inspectors, unions and fixers, insurance adjusters, shipping agents, people who made environmental reports disappear. Brooks leaned closer. How far back? Years? How much money? Calvin shook his head. Enough, Cole asked. Why was it in the shelter? Martin Keene brought it there the night of the storm. Why? Because the company office near the river was flooding. He thought the bunker was safer. Cole almost laughed at the cruelty of it. The book had been hidden underground to serve a flood. Then people were left underground to protect the book. Calvin continued. When Richard found the chemical storage, Martin realized the ledger was in the same section. So he sealed the shaft, yes, with 14 civilians above the flood line. Calvin nodded. Brooks's face hardened. Did they die there? Calvin looked at her. No. Cole stopped breathing for a second. What? Calvin's eyes filled. They got out. The room went silent. Cole leaned forward. All 14. 12. What happened to the other 2? One woman had been injured, badly. One older man stayed with her. Cole absorbed that. 12 got out where? There was an old ventilation passage. Nathan's map marks a tower. Calvin looked at him. Then he remembered. Where did they go? Calvin's hands began shaking again. Me, 2 county volunteers. And Cole stared. Nathan helped them escape. Calvin nodded. After Edmund sealed the west hatch, Nathan found another way down through the ventilation service. Richard had gotten them high enough. Calvin swallowed. We pulled 12 out one at a time, Brooks asked. Then why aren't they in the records? Calvin closed his eyes. Because Martin Keene threatened them. Cole's anger returned. With what? Immigration, jobs, children, deportation. He told them Halcyon owned the county. Some believed him. He wasn't completely wrong. Brooks asked. What happened to them? Nathan drove them to a church. Cole looked at the map. Church, not a landmark, a destination, Calvin continued. St. Matthew's Lutheran, pastor named Elias Ward. He hid them. Helped some Reach family in Oregon. Others went east. 2 families changed names. Cole's throat tightened. Nathan had not spent 47 years simply guarding a grave. He had been guarding survivors, their identities, their families. The old man everyone called a drunk and a coward had carried the location of living witnesses in silence. Cole asked, why didn't Nathan tell anyone later? Calvin looked at him. He tried. Then people started getting visits. What kind of visits? The kind that made them move. Cole understood. Keene? Halcyonson. Could have been both. After that, Nathan stopped asking survivors to risk themselves. Brooks opened her notebook. Does the church still exist? Calvin's gone. But records? His voice weakened. Records may still be somewhere. Cole thought of Nathan's map. The word church had been circled twice. Where? Calvin looked at him. Ask for the bell. Cole frowned. What does that mean? The old man smiled faintly. Nathan loved making things harder than necessary. That sounded right, too. Before they left, Calvin grabbed Cole's wrist. His grip was weak. His eyes were not. Tell Warren something. Cole waited. Tell him Richard didn't blame him. Cole stared. How do you know? Richard gave me a note before he went back down. Calvin's voice broke. I was supposed to give it to Warren. You didn't. Why? Edmund found me first. Cole felt a familiar anger rise, not so dense. What happened to the note? Calvin's eyes moved toward the dresser. Brooks opened the top drawer at his nod. Inside, an envelope sat beneath old photographs. On the front, Warren. The paper had yellowed, still sealed. 47 years. Cole looked at Calvin. You kept it. I was a coward. Cole shook his head. No. Calvin looked at him. Cole continued. You made a coward's decision once. That's not the same thing as being one forever. The words surprised Cole as he said them. Maybe because they were not really for Calvin. Maybe they were not even for Nathan. On the drive back, Cole called Warren. No answer. Claire answered instead. Dad's gone. Cole tightened his grip on the steering wheel. What do you mean gone? He left the hotel before dawn. Vehicle? Yes, where would he go? Claire was silent. Then Cole understood. The ridge, I think so. They turned south. Brooks notified state investigators. Cole pushed the Ford harder than he should have. Ranger braced himself in the back seat, unhappy with the speed, but unwilling to criticize until they survived it. By early afternoon, they reached Nathan's property. Warren's truck sat beside the old workshop, empty. The west side of the ridge lay nearly a mile through timber. Cole took Nathan's map. Ranger took the lead. They found the ventilation tower buried beneath blackberry vines and fallen limbs. Old concrete, rusty ladder. A steel cap covered most of the opening. Someone had recently moved it. Cole saw boot prints. Warren, another set, larger, fresh. Brooks saw them too. He wasn't alone. Cole looked at Ranger. Track. The dog descended through the opening. A narrow service passage led inside the mountain. Unlike the flooded lower shelter, this tunnel remained mostly dry. They moved slowly. After 80 yards, voices carried through the dark. Warren and another man, David Keene, Cole, stopped. Brooks raised one hand. They listened. Keene's voice came first. "You could have ended this 40 years ago," Warren answered. "So could you. My father protected your family. My father used mine." Keene laughed softly. "Do you really believe there's a difference?" Cole moved closer. Through a broken concrete partition he could see them. Warren stood beside an old storage alcove. David Keene stood 10 feet away. Mid-60s, tall, silver hair, dark field coat. He did not look like a man who had climbed through a ventilation shaft. Some men carried boardrooms with them. Keene was one. Between them sat a steel document chest. Blue paint remained along one edge. The blue book. Warren had found it. Keene had followed him. Keene spoke. "Give it to me." "No. You spent most of your life protecting this company." "I spent most of my life protecting Richard." "Same thing." Warren shook his head. "No." Keene's expression hardened. "My father built Halcyon with your father. They bribed half the county. They built jobs, they built homes, they built roads. They poisoned people." Keene shrugged. "History is never clean." Cole stepped into the chamber. "No." Both men turned. Ranger emerged beside Cole. Brooks followed. Cole looked at Keene. "But sometimes it's dirty enough to leave fingerprints." Keene stared at him. "You don't know what you're holding. I know 14 people were abandoned underground. 12 survived." Cole watched Keene's face there. A fraction of surprise. He had not known. Cole continued. "That's the problem with burying history. Eventually somebody survives you." Keene's composure thinned. Warren looked at Cole. "Calvin." "Alive." Warren closed his eyes. Cole removed the sealed envelope. "Richard left this for you." Warren stared at it, his lips parted. "What?" "Calvin kept it." Cole held it out. Warren took the letter with both hands. For several seconds he could not open it. Keene stepped toward the chest. Ranger growled. Keene stopped. Brooks's hand rested near her holster. "Don't." Keene looked at the dog, then at Cole. "This can still end quietly." Cole almost smiled. "People keep offering me quiet. I've had enough of it." Keene's voice it's lowered. "You think exposing a ledger from 1979 helps anyone? It helps the people whose lives were erased. They're dead. Some aren't." Keene's eyes sharpened. Cole continued. "And neither are their children." Keene's expression changed. Calculation, there it was, the money, the liability, the thing Halcyon feared. Brooks stepped toward the chest. "I am securing that as evidence." Keene moved fast. Not toward Brooks, toward an old electrical box on the wall. Cole recognized the action too late. Keene pulled a red handle. An alarm sounded. Then a deep mechanical clunk moved through the passage. Warren looked up. Keene backed away. Closed the fire doors. Brooks cursed. Behind them, steel began descending across the passage. Cole turned. "Move!" They ran. Ranger reached the opening first. The fire door dropped faster than Cole expected. Brooks slid beneath. Cole followed. Warren did not. He stood beside the chest. And Richard's letter. "Warren." Warren looked at Cole. Then at Keene. Keene was on the other side too. The steel door dropped lower. 3 feet, 2. Cole grabbed the bottom edge. Impossible weight. Hydraulic pressure pushed downward. Ranger barked. Brooks tried to help. Warren shoved the blue chest toward the gap. It jammed beneath the door. Steel crushed against steel. The chest screamed, but held. "Go!" Cole shouted. Warren dropped to the floor and crawled beneath. Keene lunged for him. Warren kicked him away. Cole grabbed Warren's arms and pulled. The chest shifted. The gap narrowed. Keene hit the floor and tried to crawl through. Ranger stepped forward, growling. Keene froze. For one instant, man and dog stared at each other beneath the descending steel. Keene backed away. Wrong decision. The chest collapsed. The fire door slammed down. Keene disappeared behind it. Brooks stared. Is there another exit? Warren breathed hard. Yes. Where? North Service stair. Brooks immediately radioed investigators. Cole looked at the crushed chest. The blue ledger had been inside. Warren's face fell. It's gone, Cole crouched. The chest had split. Paper protruded from one corner, not burned, not destroyed. Compressed, he pulled. A thick ledger slid free, blue cloth cover. Water stained. Warren laughed, once almost like crying. Cole handed it to Brooks. Seems Nathan wasn't the only thing on this property too stubborn to die. They exited through the ventilation tower. State officers intercepted David Keene at the North Service Road 17 minutes later. He did not resist. Men like Keene rarely imagined handcuffs until they were already touching metal. The blue ledger went into evidence, so did the films. Nathan's recordings. The company's surveillance records recovered from a secondary storage unit. County files, insurance correspondence, and Calvin Rusk's testimony. The investigation lasted months. Cole learned quickly that justice did not move like a raid. There was no single door to breach, no final room. No moment when someone shouted clear and everything became simple. Justice moved through interviews, subpoenas, archives, courtrooms, environmental testing, family records, old immigration documents, DNA comparisons, and people deciding, sometimes after decades, that they were finally willing to speak. 7 of the 12 survivors Nathan helped rescue were confirmed to have lived long enough to raise family. 3 were still alive. 1 lived in California, 1 in Idaho, 1 outside Tacoma. The youngest had been a 6-year-old girl in 1979. Her name was Elena Marquez. She was 73 when Cole met her. She arrived at Nathan's property in the Springs, small, silver-haired, carrying an old red coat folded over one arm. Ranger approached her slowly. Elena knelt, despite the protest of her knees. The dog sniffed her hands, then allowed her to touch his face. "You found him?" she asked Cole. "Nathan?" Cole nodded. In a way, Elena looked toward the ridge. "He carried me." Cole felt his chest tighten. "What?" "When we came through the ventilation shaft." She touched the red coat. "I was freezing. Nathan wrapped me in this." Cole stared at it. His uncle's old coat, the cedar smoke jacket from Cole's childhood memory. Elena smiled through tears. "He told me to keep it until I was warm. I kept forgetting to give it back." Cole could not speak for several seconds. All his life that coat had belonged to a memory of a man his family said abandoned everyone. Now it had returned on the shoulders of someone he saved. Elena held it out. "This belongs to you." Cole shook his head. "No." She looked surprised. He folded her hands back around it. "Nathan gave it to someone who needed it. Sounds like he knew where it belonged." Elena cried then. So did Cole. "Not much." "Enough." Warren Voss came to the property 2 weeks later. No gray raincoat, no polished shoes, just jeans, work boots, and Richard's letter inside his jacket. He found Cole repairing the porch. Ranger watched from the shade. Warren stopped at the steps. "I read it." Cole set down the hammer. "What did Richard say?" Warren looked toward the mountain. "Not much." A pause. He said, "The collapse wasn't my fault." Cole waited. "He said if he didn't come back, I was supposed to tell our mother he went where he chose to go." Warren swallowed, "And he told me not to let Dad turn guilt into a leash." Cole looked at him. "Did it help?" Warren gave a sad smile. "Ask me in another 47 years. Cole understood. Some wounds did not close because somebody handed you the correct sentence. But sometimes the sentence gave the wound somewhere to begin. Warren later testified against Halcyon, so did Claire. David Keene resigned from the board before charges were announced. It did not save him. Neither did age, neither did money. Neither did the respectable language companies use when describing decisions made by dead men. The Blue Ledger connected Halcyon to decades of concealed environmental payments and fraudulent settlements. The company entered a massive civil resolution. Parts of the property were placed under federal and state remediation. Victims and descendants received compensation. Cole received money too. Not $14 million in a suitcase. Nothing that simple. The estate settlement, environmental easements, historical preservation rights, and Halcyon's unlawful attempts to suppress the property claim eventually gave Cole a financial position he had never imagined owning. Enough to clear every medical debt, enough to replace the Ford, enough to buy 10 houses if he had wanted them. He bought none. He repaired Nathan's new roof, safe porch, reliable solar power, a deep well, a workshop door that closed properly. He kept the old kitchen table. He kept Nathan's notebooks. And he kept the trailer too. It sat behind the workshop. Not because Cole needed it anymore, because he wanted to remember the difference between having little and believing you were worth little. Those were not the same condition. The state preserved the upper shelter as a historic site. The lower chamber remained closed. Richard's remains were eventually recovered through a stabilized access route. So were the remains of the 2 civilians who had stayed behind. They were buried under their own names, not unidentified. Not missing, not cargo, names that mattered. Nathan Mercer received no medal. Cole was glad. Nathan would have hated the ceremony. Instead, the county placed a simple plaque near the west ventilation tower. It listed Nathan, Richard, Calvin, the responders who told the truth, and all 23 civilians who entered the shelter during the storm. Living and dead, no company logo, no speeches about corporate responsibility. Just names. On the morning the plaque was dedicated, Cole arrived early. Ranger walked beside him. The German Shepherd was slowing now. 9 years old, gray spreading farther across his muzzle. He still inspected every stranger, still disapproved of expensive attorneys, still believed squirrels represented a failure of national security. Cole sat on a bench overlooking the ridge. Fog moved through the fir trees. For a while neither man nor dog did anything. Then Cole removed the old photograph from his jacket. Not Nathan's, his own, 5 men beneath an Afghan sun. Danny Hayes beside him. Cole had carried the photograph face down for 17 years. He turned it over, looked, really looked. Danny was smiling. Cole had forgotten that. Memory had reduced him to the last radio transmission. Get them out, the final command, the final failure. But Danny had existed before the last minute of his life. He had laughed badly, sang worse, hated instant coffee, called his daughter every chance he could, a whole man. Not simply someone Cole failed to bring home. Ranger placed his muzzle on Cole's knee. Cole looked toward the mountain. Nathan had spent decades trying to preserve people who had been reduced to missing names. Richard had gone back because since strangers were still waiting. Warren had nearly destroyed himself trying to preserve one brother as a perfect hero. And Cole had spent 17 years turning Danny into a ghost whose only purpose was to accuse him. Maybe remembering someone truthfully was harder than worshiping guilt. Maybe it was kinder too. Cole pulled out his phone. There was a number he had not called in 11 years. Danny's daughter. She was an adult now. Cole had written to her twice. Never sent either letter. He found the number. His thumb hovered. Ranger looked up. Cole exhaled, then pressed call. A woman answered. Hello. Cole closed his eyes. For half a second the old instinct told him to hang up. Run, stay silent, carry it alone. Then he looked at Ranger. At Nathan's Ridge, at 23 names carved into stone. My name is Cole Mercer. His voice almost failed. I served with your father. Silence on the other end. Then I know who you are. Cole looked down. His hands were trembling. I should have called a long time ago. The woman breathed softly. Yeah. No forgiveness, not yet, no easy ending. Cole was strangely grateful. He continued. I wanted to tell you something about him. What? Cole looked at Danny's photograph. Something good. They spoke for 43 minutes. When the call ended, Cole remained on the bench. He did not feel healed. He distrusted that word. But the weight inside him had moved. That was enough. Ranger stood, stretched, then began walking toward Nathan's house without waiting. Cole laughed. All right, he followed. Halfway down the trail, Ranger stopped. Cole stopped too. The dog stared into the trees for one brief instant. Cole felt the old anticipation. Another hidden door, another secret, another dead man asking for help. Then a deer stepped through the ferns. Ranger watched it. The deer watched Ranger. Neither moved. Cole smiled. Leave it. Ranger looked at him, then reluctantly obeyed. They continued home. Home. Cole noticed the word only after thinking it. Not property, not inheritance, not Nathan's place. Home. Behind them, the mountains stood beneath the morning light. For nearly half a century, powerful men had believed silence could preserve what money had built. Nathan believed something else. Richard did too. So did the people whose names had finally come back. Truth did not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it waited underground. Sometimes it survived on damaged film. Sometimes it hid inside an old man's shame. Sometimes it traveled for 47 years inside a sealed envelope. And sometimes it needed nothing more heroic than one tired man, one aging German shepherd, and the decision not to sell before asking why someone wanted the land so badly. Cole reached the porch. Ranger climbed the steps and lay beside the door. The house smelled of sawdust, coffee, and wet cedar. On the kitchen wall hung Nathan's photograph. Beside it was Richard's. Cole had placed Danny's there too, not because all three men were the same. Because each one had taught him something he had been too stubborn to understand when he was younger. The dead did not need a man to live inside their final moment. They needed him to keep walking with the best of what they left behind. Cole poured coffee. Ranger sighed heavily near the stove. You had breakfast. The dog opened one eye. Cole shook his head. Unbelievable. He broke a piece of bacon in half. Ranger stood immediately. Cole stared at him. Miraculous recovery. The dog's tail moved once. Cole laughed, a real laugh this time. Outside, morning spread across the ridge. No alarms. No engines climbing the road. No strangers bringing contracts. Only wind in the fir trees. For the first time in years, Cole did not mistake quiet for danger. He simply listened, and let it be peace. Some people spend a lifetime believing redemption means changing the past. Cole learned something different. The past cannot always be repaired. Some people cannot be brought back. Some words come decades too late. But we still get to decide what we carry forward. Nathan carried names. Richard carried strangers toward safety. Ranger carried Cole through moments when memory became too heavy. And eventually, Cole learned to carry the people he had lost without allowing their final moments to become the only part of them he remembered. Maybe that is what second chances really are. Not another life. Another way to live the one we still have. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next story in our series. And wherever you are listening from tonight, thank you for spending this time with us.